What up, y'all? It's the old man in the sand, and today we got a. It's not so much a funny video; it's more of an interesting video that I had with the that I seen with the interview of Albert Einstein. Believe it or not, so we're gonna get a little philosophical here. Nothing too major, but it's not gonna be rapid fire jokes like we always have.
Yeah, but this interview, yeah, rapid fire, yeah, rapid
It's not
fire,
gonna be our normal rapid fire.
machine gun style,
Yeah, jokes just bouncing off you.
right? But one thing I do is that the man that interviewed him that got lost since I think 1950. They've just found it recently.
Yeah, it's a band interview, so I don't know if they might have had this in was the Vatican libraries.
It was in a vault somewhere, I
Yeah,
thought.
that's why I said the Vatican libraries. Somewhere in the CIA.
Never to be seen
Yeah,
again.
somewhere the CIA has it somewhere, and they're
Right.
or DARPA, because
But this, I guess, is a real interview. And
well, it ain't Einstein talking, so this is actually someone just
well,
repeating the interview.
repeating the
Yeah.
notes that he wrote down interviewing
Yeah. So
Einstein.
yeah.
So, of course.
But anyway, we're gonna get into this. It's Albert Einstein and a band interview with him.
What if, before his death, Albert Einstein had allowed himself to speak not as a physicist, but as a human being standing at the edge of the unknown? What if he had shared not theories but realizations, born not from faith, but from a lifetime spent observing the hidden patterns of nature? This story is not a historical transcript. There are no secret documents, no verified recordings. What follows is a fictional thought experiment, a philosophical reflection crafted in Einstein's voice, not to deceive but to imagine, to explore questions that lie at the intersection of science and spirit, reason and mystery. This narrative invites you to listen not for facts, but for meaning. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Mental Dose channel and join our Telegram community, where you'll get early access to new videos and insights on personal and spiritual growth. Now, let's get started. The imagined interview begins with a question that has haunted human consciousness for millennia.
Now he's also saying this imagined interview, so this whole title might be clickbait. Just saying.
Well, it's got mega views.
Well, yeah, it has mega views because.
But if you looked at Einstein's writings and then looked at this, could this guy actually write just like Einstein? It's like
Probably.
It's like the aliens that crashed.
And Roswell. Yeah,
Roswell.
I mean, yeah, he could, but he just said it's a fictional story, so I'm not.
It's fictional.
Yeah,
Well,
which means that's fake. That's made up interview. That's what he was saying. But so I don't. It's still interesting. It's still interesting.
Like-
Einstein probably actually did say some of this stuff, but I think he said it more publicly than he ever did anything.
Oh,
Einstein was always big on like talking about religion and this and that, so they could have just pulled stuff from.
Yeah, but let me talk here because we looked at this video and that's why we're doing it. But the thing is these great scientists back then, with this being a theory, basically, talks about life after death, like there is life after death. That's what it comes to. And consciousness had so much to do with this video. So
Yeah.
plow through it.
Professor Einstein, do you believe in life after death? A pause. Then a subtle smile. To believe is not the right word, he replies. At my age, I prefer to know. The journalist is taken aback. Wasn't Einstein the great skeptic? But your science has always rejected the soul. The reply is calm but firm. Not my science. Popular science concerns itself only with what is measurable. But reality is not confined to what we can measure. There are structures beyond formulas, truths that appear not in laboratories, but in the silence between the data.
So I agree with this too, but Einstein also predicted something about black holes like 100 years or something, or I don't know, 50 years before it was actually found out. And he had this all written down too. So this guy is he's definitely not a stupid guy or just one of those people that you hear about from history where they just say a bunch of great things about him, but you're like always kind of unsure. If anyone ever looks into Einstein's life, not his personal life, I think he was a freak.
This is basically, to me, Einstein. By the way, he only lived a year after this interview, but he does, like he said, it's all measured. There isn't like now there's this that can't be measured.
Yeah, so but he knew stuff before we could be able to measure it. He created some of the measurements we even use today. So yes, he
formulas
and all kinds of stuff that no one ever figured out. So do I believe he's kind of, if this is all true, then yes, there is something more than the data. We know so little about everything. Even he's one of the smartest guys that ever existed, and he would tell you that he's not that smart.
Well, the interviewer, had to record some of this because he talks about what he's thinking and what Einstein tells him and how shocked he is.
Yeah, it's like someone writing a short story, though.
Yeah,
that's how you gotta look at it.
He had to rewrite this.
Yeah, this is like looking at a short story. I wish there was actually some video evidence of this interview, but...
Well, it was 1950, I'm not mistaken, so...
Well, they took pictures.
Oh, they still had the cameras. He didn't, obviously. Yeah. That's a little mysterious. But what would Einstein accept? And by the way, what made Einstein talk to this guy? Was he that important? How well did he know Einstein?
Einstein did a lot of interviews.
With strangers?
Yeah. Well, like news people, bro, just like anybody does an interview nowadays. I mean, it was still the same.
This is definitely a guy that works for a newspaper.
Or something, yeah.
But was this ever put in a newspaper back after?
Well, I don't think it was a newspaper. I think it was probably someone who was like trying to come up in the science world, and they were having a real hard time choosing over science over religion, and he actually sat down and talked with whoever this person was.
That could be. That makes sense too.
So anyway,
he doesn't talk about his science or his religion, not the reporter.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
But he's just asking the difference between where does science stop and where does religion begin is kind of how I see this whole little story.
And then there's the consciousness of...
Well, consciousness is all part of it. So anyway, let's pop through this.
Consciousness does not end with the body. It transforms. It returns. Einstein describes consciousness as a wave, temporary, visible, shaped by the body as wind shapes water. When the wind stops, the wave vanishes from sight, but not from existence. Its energy returns to the ocean. So does consciousness. Death in this vision is not annihilation, it is reintegration. Asked how this aligns with the laws of physics, Einstein explains that relativity speaks of energy and matter, but ignores the observer. Consciousness is not the product of the brain, he says. It is primary. The brain is a receiver, not a generator. Quantum physics already hints at this. Entanglement, the observer effect, the collapse of probability into perception. These are signs that the universe is participatory. Reality exists because it is perceived. When pressed on his views about God,
well, see, now when I kind of think about that, when he's saying, like, matter never dies. So he's saying you just get transformed into something else. So, like, say your body gets buried. You're going to feed the dirt that feeds the bugs, that feeds the birds, that feeds the fish, that feeds the wolves, that that other stuff.
That's how we survive.
Yeah, we survived by that. If
animals didn't eat other animals, we wouldn't be able to kill some of them for food.
Yeah, and if everyone got cremated every time someone died, you never give back to the earth when you're set on fire. Okay, I've changed my opinion a lot of that in the more recent years of my life, but yeah, no, you want your energy to go back down into wherever it came from because that's how you keep living, basically.
He's not really talking about that. That's
what he was saying. With the matter, when he's talking about matter, he's saying your matter never disappears because you can never get rid of. You can't create matter, and you can't make matter disappear. I think that's one of the laws of physics. Don't ask me. I'm the uninformed informant, but there is something to do with your matter, and that's why he's basically saying like your matter never goes nowhere because it just gets transferred into something else, whether that's dirt, whether it's heaven, or it's probably not heaven, but it's something else that, what if,
or you just get reincarnated.
Yeah, I don't think he's talking about that much, but
Well,
let's see.
He is in a way.
Let's see.
Einstein rejects the caricature of a personal deity. God is not a person. God is the ocean, the total field of consciousness into which all separate selves dissolve. No being ever disappears. Death is not the end, it is the return to source. The journalist, both disturbed and intrigued, asks how a scientist can embrace such metaphysical language.
You know what he said? When he says your body doesn't go, it doesn't ever
you're
disappear.
right.
It goes back to the source, which means it goes back to the earth,
Right.
which feeds the bugs, which feeds the dirt, which feeds the everything.
All bodies, I guess, animals as well.
Yeah, bro, it's a part of life. Everything just keeps going. That's why they call it the circle of life, because
A deer gets old and dies and lays in the whatever, and the birds come around.
the worms eat it, the birds eat the
everything.
worms,
They just know. And the funny thing is if to me, if the deer dies and there's no worms or anything there,
They'll show up.
They
They'll show
find
up.
a way to get there.
They'll show up.
How do they know that? Smell? Does a worm have smell?
Dude, if I would think they would honestly get there, bro, I think it would just because that's what they know. Worms have been creatures for so long. We don't know how they work, just like a worm wouldn't know how humans work.
They probably lived through the floods along with the crocodiles
And all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's plot through this.
Einstein responds not with mysticism, but with pattern. What I say is not based on faith, but on structure. The unified field theory pointed toward a deeper coherence. Beneath matter is space. Beneath space is vibration. Beneath vibration, conscious mind. I do not speak as a prophet. I speak as a man who looked closely enough to glimpse the edges of something infinite. He speaks of suffering, not as punishment, but as a form of growth. Pain is the tension through which the soul expands. Without it, we remain static. Just as muscles grow under resistance, so does consciousness mature through difficulty. Each life is a lesson, and none are wasted. The journalist asks, then what happens after death? Einstein answers, it depends on the level of awareness. Those who lived in fear, greed, selfishness remain entangled in the shadows of their past. But those who sought truth, who gave, who loved, they ascend. They merge. They remember.
Okay, see, that's where it kind of loses me right there, because I don't know. That means after you die, there's someone judging you, like they would be at the pearly gate. So now he's like switching from science into this entanglement, and now it's God, which...
Well, I always grew up that God is all forgiving. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, then why do people go to hell?
So
Then why do people go to hell?
So I want to give you one example, because this is mind-boggling. So, would God forgive Hitler?
That's what I'm asking.
Would God forgive Stalin? Would God forgive these serial killers?
Is
Would
Ted
God-
Bundy up there in heaven right now?
Yeah,
Just
because God forgave him?
jerking off, raping bitches? Because that's what he did out here.
That's a little far-fetched since, you know...
Well, I'm just saying, if God is all forgiving, do you think his soul would ever change?
I'm just
Do you
saying,
think Jeffrey Dahmer would still be eating people if he never got caught? Because, yeah, he probably still would
be doing that.
Yeah. So,
But what I'm saying is, that's just something I heard growing up. I went to Catholic schools, so I'm a Catholic, and I remember that being taught to me.
oh, no, that is what they teach in the whole Catholic Christian.
So if you're
Calvin.
learning that and you're like, well, God's all forgiving, then I can just rape, kill, shoot.
I can just do whatever I
'Cause
want,
when I
right?
do die, I'm still going to go to heaven.
Yeah.
God's going to forgive me.
Forgive me. As long as I always say I love God while I'm here on this earth, he will forgive me when I get to the pearly gates, no matter what I do.
I guess.
Yeah, and that's
That's why they say there's hell, though, right?
Yeah, but then that means God isn't all forgiving because
There
he
you
sends
go.
people to hell. So how could he be all forgiving if there's a hell?
It's a little confusing, isn't it?
It's ridiculous sometimes. That's why I'm more of a science guy, but uh, I don't hate anybody who's in a religion or celebrates any kind of
No,
religious beliefs.
No, you're not
No,
like that.
and I'm open to hearing your beliefs actually because
Yeah, we would love to see some
yeah,
comments on this one.
yeah. Tell us what
What
you
are
believe in,
Yeah, we would like to know that.
and we'll talk on
We'll,
there. And we can see
we'll,
and make some good points, and
yeah, there's probably many, many better opinions than the uninformed informants.
come on.
Einstein does not call it reincarnation, but suggests a return. Not automatic, not mechanical. It is a choice. When the soul is ready, it can leave the cycle. That is liberation, not the end of individuality, but its transmutation into light. A conscious return to unity. The tone darkens as Einstein addresses his concerns for the future. Humanity races forward technologically, but spiritually it regresses. We forget.
Yeah, that part I agree with. Because look at where we're at right now.
Look where we're at with AI. People have just gotten so sick, and I blame technology for part of that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the internet. The internet.
By the way, who created the internet?
Wasn't it Bill Gates?
No, the internet was always there though, wasn't it?
Oh, that's what I think Bill Gates was the first guy to ever tap into it. I think the internet's always been here. I don't think it's ever not been on Earth. Just like electricity has never been on Earth. We use the Earth to make our electrics work. So
Yeah.
people tap into that stuff. It's always been here. So we never know what thing we're going to tap into next. That's always been here. And it's just going to totally change humanity again.
Like, is there a chance that the internet was tapped when they were building the pyramids?
I don't. Yes.
And the pyramids are rather young, actually, compared to how long Earth's been around.
Yeah, but no animals would ever be smart enough to. See, that's why we're.
No, I'm saying that the humans that were around knew how to use to be able to cut stone.
Well, why do you think everybody knew? Why do you think there's pyramids in so many different areas?
Yeah, how'd that
If
work?
it was just in Egypt, I would be like, okay. But no, they're everywhere across the whole effing world.
Isn't that what I said a few days ago? I'm like, the internet had to be there so that people could connect with each other all
Because they weren't
over
making
the
boats.
world.
Because they weren't making boats and sailing across the oceans.
And teaching somebody how to build a pyramid.
They weren't doing that.
No.
So anybody who says that they were doing that are absolutely facetiously
Pyramids
wrong.
are everywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, we got a couple more minutes of this. We're gonna plow through this.
Yet we are not separate. We see enemies instead of mirrors. If we do not awaken to our fundamental unity, we may not survive our own inventions. The real danger is not death, it is division. As the
And if we ain't more divided than ever.
So did Einstein say this, or did this newspaper guy? I mean,
I think this whole story is made up.
I think it just sounds like Einstein's writing.
Yeah, but a lot
if you looked at my writing and your writing, or anybody else's writing, any way they write, everybody writes different.
Yeah, I don't know how many papers you've read that Einstein wrote, though.
No, we've read none, so I don't know.
I've read a few.
Does it seem like
this seems like a story that's kind of being.
No, but does it seem like those are Einstein's
it's kind
words?
of being pushed. I don't know.
Because I don't know, because I haven't. Have you? If you read a couple, does
well, I normally read his
Einstein's
math. I normally read his math.
Oh, okay.
So that's not. This has nothing to do with anything I've heard him talk about religion and stuff before, but he was always like a science guy, but he was kind of a religious guy. So that's where I think they're pulling this whole thing from. But I think the whole title of this video is clickbait. I don't think this interview probably ever happened, but do I think it's still an interesting conversation? And if he has to clickbait with Albert Einstein for me to hear this video, I agree with it, because I agree with a lot of the stuff that's going on in this video.
Back when we didn't have these problems, which they just talked about. Now they're here.
Yeah.
Or did he experience them when he
Well, of course
lived
he
in
did.
Germany and
Yeah.
had to leave Germany
Yeah.
because Hitler ended up running the country with only at one time not even 1%. He had like 12 guys he was talking
Yeah,
to.
no, Albert Einstein literally left Germany to come live in America.
Yeah,
And
because
of the other ways that people run their countries and stuff like that. America is so benefited, and all these people who talk so much shit about America,
but they all want to live here.
they
They
still
all
all
come
live
to
here.
visit.
They all still live here. They all want to move here. That's why we got so much immigration happening, illegal immigration at that, because everybody wants to come here just so they can get fat and get government checks. I feel like,
Yeah, no, it's freedom. It's freedom with free stuff.
yeah, freedom with free stuff. Yeah, that never works in any country, by the way. So
Now, when
America will go down in
Not when
flames.
it's like 15 million people that showed up within 4 years.
Yeah. So anyway, let's plow through this.
Imaginary interview nears its end, Einstein reflects on E equals mc squared. This equation changed the world, but I now see another layer. Consciousness is energy, subtle, refined, but real. And like all energy, it is not destroyed. It changes form. After death, consciousness continues altered but unbroken. In time, science will find ways to detect this shift, not through theology, but through new instruments, new physics, new courage. But even if proven tomorrow, that is not the point. The real challenge is not proof. It is transformation. Knowing we continue beyond death should not lead to escape, but to responsibility. If
Everybody should be responsible for themselves. I
feel like that's really hard to do because human beings can be so manipulated, so brainwashed so quickly.
well, you gotta eventually sit back and look in the mirror one day and be like,
At yourself.
yeah, and say, am I taking responsibility for all my actions, or am I not having any accountability of my life and what I choose to do?
Or am I listening to these other people that are telling me how to live, how to dress,
There are a bunch
what
of
to eat,
I'm
how to
sure the
exercise,
internet- I'm sure the internet
Yeah.
has heard of the term yes man. And that's what most people are nowadays. They're just, oh, girl, do you think I look good in this dress when she looks like Lizzo? You're like, no, that's what you should be saying. But instead,
We
you
never tell the
power
truth.
them up. You power them up. The truth has left the building. Actually, it took a space shuttle up with Katy Perry, but instead of coming back down, it jumped out the fucking window, and now it's on Mars. It's gone so far.
And I want to tell you something. You're like, so many people like, I don't lie. Well, did you lie when your best friend that weighs 200 pounds asked you how I look in the dress? And you said, you look great?
Yeah.
Were you lying?
Or if I went up and asked anybody, like, do I look like Atlas? I would hope people would say no. Okay, I would hope people would say no.
I don't know if that's
that would be a
good thing.
that would be a delusion that I live in my own mind, that I look like Atlas, the sculpture.
every word and deed echoes beyond the body, then how we live matters more than ever. The final question lingers. Why do so few great minds speak of this? Because truth is dangerous, Einstein replies. Not because it harms, but because it liberates. And those who profit from control fear freedom. Some knew, Newton, Tesla, Planck, even Darwin by the end suspected there was more. But each chose silence or symbols, as did I until now. Not because I doubted, but because the world was not ready. He stands slowly, his voice quiet but unwavering. I am no mystic, I'm a seeker. Truth belongs not to science or religion, but to those who search. Death is not the wall, it is the door. As dawn breaks through the window, he looks to the sky. In my youth, I believed the greatest task was to unlock the universe. But now I see. The greatest task is to understand the self and one's connection to all beings. What survives is not the body, nor the name, but the light we gave, the love we shared, the truth we lived. We lose nothing real, and we take with us everything that matters. The journalist closes his notebook in silence. On the final page he writes, It does not matter what awaits us after death. What matters is how we live before it.
So that was the end of the video. Yeah, I just think that when they called it mixed squared, that really bothered me. So I feel like
It's funny how, yeah, go ahead.
It's funny how this can just all, that I'm thinking that this is all just a story and this whole title's clickbait. Because,
well, I don't know on that, but all I know is that me and you ended up, while we were watching this, talking about this is really happening in a lot of ways right now in front of our eyes.
oh yeah,
With having no
but if
control over it.
someone wrote this
Nobody
story,
wants to be responsible. It's always somebody else's fault. It just goes on and on and on.
I'm just saying, if someone wrote this story in 2025, they'd be pretty accurate on, how things are going.
Yeah. But if you go back to 1950,
Yeah.
the country was a lot more united than it is now.
Yeah. Well, you got to think where he left. He left Nazi Germany is where Albert Einstein
Yeah,
was.
like 1932 or 33, something like that, though, and came over to America.
Yeah. I thought it was mid-war.
No.
I thought he left in like 45,
No.
like early 45. I thought he
45,
left.
the war was over, Sam.
Or what year did the war start?
It started like in 1938, 39.
Oh, yeah. Oh, then then you were right. That's
So
when the
it
year he
was
left.
like a couple years before. He was well aware of what was going on, and he got out. I don't know when he left, but it was years before the war started because he predicted it.
Anyway, I do think this is a fun story. I think it was a fun listen, and it's only 8.5 minutes long. So,
Yeah,
you know
we're
what?
good.
Y'all go check out this channel. I'm gonna leave their commercial in here because I can't remember what the name of their YouTube channel is right now. This is the first video I've ever seen on here, so sorry guys. I'll put the link in the comment section. But
Give us a like.
yeah,
Give us a comment.
Yeah, YouTube, all the YouTube cliches. Don't forget to go down there. Give me another YouTube cliche, and you're done. I'm done. We're done.
A local bar, people talk like I can't hear a thing. Make me wanna walk.